Yo, what's going on, Kicks Army? And we'll be doing a sneaker drawing on the Kyrie for Halloween set to release October 13th, as well as talking about Paul Pierce's thoughts on Andrew Bynum's potential return, Trae Young wanting to beat Steph Curry's single-game three-point record, and Kawhi Leonard being open-minded to staying in Toronto. Let's get it! As soon as I saw images of this sneaker leaked, I'm like, yep, I'm definitely doing this sneaker today. As I mentioned in the beginning of this video, this is the Kyrie for Halloween that was just recently announced, set to release October 13th for a retail price of $120. The Kyrie 4 has had a number of interesting models that we've seen over the past year, but I think this has got to be one of the more interesting ones to release. Because when it comes to models like this, where the style of it is so unique compared to the other models that have released, it really feels almost like a custom as opposed to like an actual shoe release. It's because it has that custom feel to it with all the dripping that's underneath the logo as well as on the outsole. It really makes it look dope. And let's be honest, that color combination between the darks and the blacks and that neon green looks really good too. Now, I say this in every video. You guys already know I am not copping these sneakers. I do not have money. I am broke. But even though green is not necessarily my color, I will say that I would definitely rock these shoes if I had them in my arsenal. Nike, if you're watching this, you already know I'm size 9.5. Thank you very much. And in case anybody is wondering, yes, I do have this stencil available on my website, KicksArt.com. And guys, I did a little bit of math. As of today, we are at 199 stencils on the website, which means by the end of the year, that's gonna be well over 300 stencils available on the website. All of which, of course, are free. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot tell you how hyped that gets me. Like, that's really exciting to see. Don't forget, if there's a stencil that you want to see added to the website that's not already available, you can send any requests through the contact tab at the top of the page. And as a quick side note, if you guys enjoy these daily sneaker drawing videos, make sure you hit that like button. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and bounce past that bell to get post notifications. Before we get into the rest of the video, I am curious on your guys' thoughts on this sneaker. I personally think it's really dope. I love the creativity in it, even though it's just so slight with the detail that they have with the swoosh. Obviously, the rest of the sneaker is black, so there's really not too much complexity there, but I think them adding that slime detail on the swoosh and the outsole is just the perfect amount of detail they needed to make it really good. And I am curious to what you guys think as well, so make sure you leave your comments down in the comment section below. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are in need of some much needed basketball talk. Even though this is the dry part of the offseason for the NBA and there's not too many big stories coming out, in fact, there's really no big stories coming out, there are smaller stories that happen every single day. And even the smallest of these stories are something that I find interesting, and I love talking about this. Like, literally, I discuss this with myself if nobody else is around, just so that way I can get it out of me. Which is why I cannot wait for the NBA season to start. I'm so excited, guys. You guys don't even know. Just for some context on this first story, in case you guys haven't heard, Andrew Bynum is trying to make his career back into the NBA. For those of you who don't know too much about Andrew Bynum, basically he was a player that played for the Lakers for about 7 seasons, and he played during that Kobe run where he won back-to-back championships as their center. He showed a good amount of potential. He was a nice starting centerpiece to have, and it also helps that he was 7 feet tall and he weighed like 270 or 80 pounds. And the key to that is that he was a pretty decent center that was monumentally better than Kwame Brown. If you don't know who Kwame Brown is, just do a quick Google search and you'll find a lot of very interesting stuff. But there's been a lot of footage of him lately working out. He's running up and down the court doing layups. He's making three-point shots one after another. What really halted his career from ever advancing past to a certain point that he should have is that he received a lot of injuries toward the later half of his career, particularly knee injuries, and that just really sucks when you're a bigger, heavier center because you're putting so much pressure on your knees, and when you get problems with your knees and it actually causes you to miss a lot of games, if not seasons, then it's usually not a good look. Teams are very skeptical in signing a center that's had knee injury problems in the past. One of the immediate things I thought of when I heard that he was trying to make a comeback was like, well, can he shoot? Because if he can't shoot, I don't see any reason as to why any team would want to pick him up. The way the paradigm shift of the NBA has been going lately is that even if you're a center, if you're not super athletic and super agile, you have to be able to shoot the basketball. Because just being big and able to dunk is not good enough anymore. These centers have a lot of skill sets that they can exploit. So if you're a center that can shoot a 3, that means as the defending center, you have to defend him so that way he doesn't shoot an open 3. Besides the obvious fact that you have to do that because that's your guy that you have to guard, if somebody else tries to go and guard that 7-foot center, they're going to have a hard time because they're probably not nearly as tall. And the problem with that, of course, is that if you leave your position, which is by the rim where you want to stay defending anybody who's trying to get an easy layup, you make it very easy for these players to get easy layups. Because now you have to defend your guy who's also a center who can make open shots, especially 3-pointers, which are worth more than 2-pointers, which are the easier shots that other players can get. We really haven't seen a paradigm like that until the recent years when we started seeing these centers that had a lot of different abilities, in particular shooting. Shooting is a phenomenal skill to have because it really puts your defender on notice at all points of the game. So it seems like from the footage that we saw at least, and a gym when nobody's defending him, there's not a crowd, all those variables don't exist, it seems like he can shoot on a somewhat consistent basis, which is good for him because that's the skill that he's absolutely going to need. But recently we got a quote from Paul Pierce to which he said, "I have a better chance at probably coming back than Andrew Bynum." Now initially you might be thinking, okay, well let's see, Paul Pierce didn't really have a super crazy injury towards the latter half of his career that Andrew Bynum had. As far as my memory serves, he pretty much just got old and he understood, okay, if I continue to try to stay in the league, it's just not going to be that good for me. I can't really move the way I used to. He has his championship ring and I'm pretty sure he was fine with that, and plus he was kind of bouncing around from team to team. As we know, Paul Pierce was with the Celtics for 15 seasons, then we went over to Brooklyn for a season, then he went over to Washington for a season, and then he finished his career off with 2 seasons with the Clippers. And that was notable because he was able to meet up with his old coach that he had when he was in Boston, Doc Rivers. So after having 19 seasons of playing the NBA, it's safe to say that he had a pretty long, good career. Plus, he was able to be a champion and win Finals MVP, and that's something few players ever have the chance to say, so one clap one time for Paul Pierce real quick. But if I have to look at what he said critically, I do notice something that's very interesting about this. Aside from the surface level point that he might be more effective than Andrew Bynum at the moment, I honestly feel like there's a little bit of, Celtics-Laker rivalry that kind of goes on within that statement. Because in 2010, the Lakers did beat the Celtics in a Game 7, and obviously if the Celtics would have won, that would have been 2 rings for Paul Pierce. So when he hears about, Andrew Bynum kind of trying to make a resurgence into the league, I feel like there's a little bit of animosity, maybe a little bit of hate and jealousy coming from Paul Pierce. He had made this quote, he was on The Jump, which is an NBA basketball show that's on ESPN and stuff. It's a really good show, you guys should watch it. But when I had first heard this comment, I thought he was throwing a little bit of shade at Andrew Bynum just because he used to be a Laker and because he was a Laker during a time in which he prevented Paul Pierce from getting another championship. At least that's just my perspective on the whole thing. Next up, we have a quote from Trae Young on Stephen Curry's single-game 3-point record. He said, quote, "I would like to break it. I definitely feel like I'm capable of breaking it, but that's a lot of threes in the game, I ain't gonna lie." Those of you who don't know, the most number of threes that have been set by a player in the regular season was, of course, Steph Curry with 13 threes. When Trae Young says that's a lot of threes in the game, man, he's really not lying. But to break Steph Curry's record, obviously Trae Young would need 14 threes and not 13. So if you want to go ahead and divide that per quarter, that means he needs about 3.5 threes a quarter. Now obviously there is some wiggle room in there to have more threes in a quarter and less in another, but guys, it doesn't really matter how you slice it, it's still really hard. That's a lot of threes, man. Just for one game, that's a lot of threes. But all throughout his college career, and when I say college career, I use that term kind of loosely because Trae Young was a one and done kind of player, so it's not like he had a long college career. But for that 1 year, a lot of people make comparisons between his game and Steph Curry's game. Not just for the way they're able to shoot a lot of threes and make them at a high percentage and at a far distance, but also the way they're able to control the offense and distribute the basketball. If I'm going to be critical about this and look at this from an objective standpoint, if Trae Young is able to have a long, good career, I'm talking like 15 years plus, I could see a time in there where he's just really hot for one game, and then there you go, the record's broken. Now, records are made to be broken, and obviously certain records are a lot more difficult to break than others. Like, I don't know if there's ever going to be a player that's going to have more championship rings than Bill Russell. But aside from that, when it comes to three-pointers and the way the game is evolving, I guarantee you at some point in the near future, there will be a player to beat Steph Curry's record. Unless Steph Curry breaks Steph Curry's record, in which case, well, there you go, man. You're just going to keep setting the bar higher on yourself? That's awesome. Lastly, we have some news from Mark Spears of the Undefeated saying Kawhi Leonard will be open-minded about re-signing with the Raptors. Now, I don't know who keeps putting these quotes out there in the stratosphere, but I will say this. I personally feel like he is going to leave Toronto, whether it be at the end of the season or whether it be they trade him. And the more I think about it, I really think like he might want to go to the Clippers. Because even though basketball wise it might make a lot more sense to go with the Lakers because, you know, they got LeBron James, but at the same time, if he really wants to take control of his own destiny, if he really wants to put his team on his back, a better team to do that than with the Clippers. That franchise has never even been to a conference finals. Just him going there would make that team super relevant because of what he provides as an individual player. Do we all remember that series in 2017 when the Spurs are going up against the Warriors in that first game, that game 1 at Oakland, right? At Golden State. The Spurs were up by over 20 points. And then Zaza Pachulia did that dirty move and he injured Kawhi Leonard and then they lost the game in the rest of the series. I'm just saying, that game absolutely happened and the Spurs were killing the Warriors. That was definitely all in the back of Kawhi Leonard. So honestly, he's gonna have success wherever he goes. I think it'd be better for him if he stays in Toronto, but if he wants to be his own man, if he wants to go home, then I think the Clippers it is. But that's gonna do it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button and bounce past that bell to get post notifications. Make sure you check out KicksArt.com for all your sneaker stencil needs. Check out the over 280 videos on the channel. You guys already know that I'm uploading daily videos, so I will see you guys tomorrow. Yee!